Welcome back, everybody, and today's topic is going to be about human relations in interviewing. This is one of the most critical areas for a legal assistant or a paralegal, and also for attorneys. Remember, lawyers and law firms, law offices, they are not selling a product. It's not like people can come in and they can buy a car or something like that. What they are buying is the quality, the credibility, the creativity of the people who are working in that law office. So first impressions are everything, and how you deal with clients, how you deal with people says everything there is to say about that firm. People are paying upwards of $250 an hour for your human relations and interviewing skills, for your ability, for your competence, your ability to work on that case. So what happens when those folks come into the office is critical. So let's talk about human relations. What does it encompass? Well, it encompasses all of the professional contacts with employers, clients, other people that come into the office, everybody from the UPS guy to the people dropping off your office supplies, because they could be potential clients someday. They're going to say, I go to that law office all the time and I deliver stuff to them. I've been in a car accident. I bet I should go to them because they're always great when I go in there. They're always so professional. Also dealing with your coworkers, other people, and just in general. So what are some of the basics? Well, a successful legal assistant, or actually any legal professional, is one who has mastered the technical skills of the craft. Okay? It's how to do your job. But also, can you relate and work well with other people from all walks of life? Because at a law office, there's going to be people from every walk of life, from people who have been charged with crimes, to CEOs of companies, to elderly people who want to have a will done, to people that are adopting a child. People from all walks of life are going to come in and out of that office. So your human relations skill is going to be measured by your ability to deal with people in a positive way. Any kind of negativity is going to be viewed in a negative way by the lawyers that you work for. If you're a legal assistant or paralegal and you cannot deal well with people, you're not going to last very long. You want to make sure that you enthusiastically observe all of the ethics rules, the office policies, and you can be firm because, hey, in a law office, again, you're dealing with people from all walks of life, and sometimes people, they don't like what they're hearing. Anybody that's been accused of a crime, a lot of them think that they're innocent and they didn't do it, and they think it's the law firm's fault if they go to jail. So sometimes you have to be firm with people. But you can't be aggressive. You have to understand the difference, and you need to be flexible. You need to be able to compromise with people, not just the clients, but with your coworkers. All right, so you may come in contact with people outside of the office. Again, you are the face of that firm. You don't want to go out there and badmouth the lawyers that you work for, because then that's going to limit the amount of business they can get, because you're out there saying they're terrible. Who wants to hire somebody that's mistreated someone? And the less business the lawyers have, guess what? The less likely it is that you're going to have a job for a long time. Because if they're not getting business, they're not able to pay you. So now you're going to come into people outside of the office, whether you're going down to the courthouse to file papers. You may be talking to people on the phone. You may be writing letters. These are opportunities. Look at these situations as opportunities. You want to foster relationships with people. You want to build mutual respect. You want to build professional cooperation. And you want to make sure you're always dealing with people openly and honestly. Now, sometimes there's going to be somebody in the office that you just don't get along with. Okay? It just happens. So you have to understand the political structure of the law office in which you work. Okay? Sometimes you know that you can't. Sally is grumpy every morning, so let's try not to talk to Sally till 11 o'clock in the morning. Let somebody who's your superior say to Sally, Sally, you really should come in here with a better attitude first thing in the morning. If you can't be in a good mood first thing in the morning, just avoid people until you feel like you can talk to people. Just something, anything. But again, this is all office politics. It doesn't mean you have to sit there and talk about Sally all day long. It doesn't mean that you have to be mean to Sally. It just means, okay, okay, I found a way to deal with Sally. I'm just not going to talk to her till 11 a.m. Office politics play a role in developing and maintaining the relationships because you may work with these people for a number of years. And if you're not courteous or cooperative at some point, people can hold grudges and make a really uncomfortable place to work. In law firms, everybody really relies on each other, so you have to be a team. One way to kind of make people feel comfortable and happy in the law office, in any office situation really, is to recognize them whenever they do something well. Give them a little award, give them a pat on the back, have an employee of the month type of a thing. Sometimes it's just bringing in a cupcake or a muffin or something and saying, hey, I thought of you. Here you go. I brought you something special today. Just being nice to other people and recognizing them and going out of your way can go a long way in human relations. Okay, so let's talk about interviewing. So human relations is one thing. It's just dealing with people. But interviewing is a critical part of any legal professional's day. You're going to be interviewing people all the time. You're like, what do you mean interviewing? Am I interviewing people for a job? No. This is interviewing clients. This is interviewing witnesses. It's interviewing people to find out what was the story, because the basis of, legal representation is some conflict has occurred and you want to get to the bottom of it. So how are we going to do that? Well, there's different types of interviews. You may be interviewing clients, you may be interviewing witnesses, you may be doing so in person, or you may be doing so over the telephone. So we're going to talk about these different types of interviews and some strategies and tips that you can use to make sure that you make the most of them. Okay, client interviews. This is by far the most important, right? The client is the boss. They are the person paying the bill, and they are the person who is most important, and they are the ones that the people in the law firm are going to zealously work for, okay? So the initial client interview should be conducted in person if at all possible. Now, I have some clients that have been charged with DUI and they have no transportation to get to my office. Sometimes it is very difficult because I do not want them to drive. If they can't find somebody to drive them, I may have to conduct a lot of my interviews with them over the phone. However, you want to try to get them in person because you want to see what kind of witness they will be. How do they come across to other people? How do they dress? How do they appear? How do they conduct themselves? Do they look away whenever they answer questions? It might mean that they're lying. And generally, one interview is not enough. You're going to need to do more than one. Any kind of facts that they give you, you have to verify their accuracy, and you have to explain to them, look, you're going to tell me some things, and I'm going to choose to believe you. However, you realize that this is an adversarial process. The people on the other side aren't going to believe anything that you say. So we have to be able to prove everything that you say. So we have to verify it for accuracy, whether there's documentation, photographs, video, witnesses. I need to have all of this to verify the accuracy of your story. So you want to make that clear to the client that it's not because you don't believe them, because, they're going to think, well, you don't even believe me. Why am I hiring you? You have to explain to them that it's not you, but you have to be able to present the story in a credible way to the other side, to a jury, potentially. Any kind of inconsistencies that you note during their story, you need to tell the attorney right away. Because if the person is lying, the worst thing is to be surprised by the other side. The lawyer or the legal assistant should always explain the investigative process to the client. Okay, this is what I'm going to do to find out if your story is true. I'm going to call your neighbor. I'm going to call your witnesses. I'm going to call the people that you said, or I'm going to go, I need your bank records. Explain to them what you're going to be doing to obtain this information. Not explaining this to them, okay? Again, as I mentioned, constrain the relationship because they will think that you don't believe them. And you can't let them think that. You have to let them know that it's not you, it's the other side. Okay, witness interviews. Again, very critical and important. Okay, the client is important, but the witnesses are the people that are going to help corroborate the evidence that your client has given you. There's a few different types of witnesses, okay? The neutral witness is somebody who just an innocent bystander. This is somebody that just happened to witness something. They have no beef in this, okay? They have no reason to lie. This is the best witness, okay? Hopefully they're going to say good things about your client. But they have personal knowledge of the facts, but they have no relationship to the client, no relationship to the opposing party. They just happen to be there, and they just happen to see it. Okay, again, best kind of witness. Juries love these people because, again, there's no reason to lie, and it's really going to be hard for the people on the other side to discredit them in some way. A friendly witness is generally going to be good for your client, however, less believable on the witness stand because they have a reason to lie, because they like your witness, they know your witness, your client. They are friendly, maybe they're related, maybe they're best friends, okay? So this is someone that shares the same perspective, business interests, or career as that of the client. They are going to speak in favor of your client. An official witness is official because of their employment. Generally, an official witness is going to be somebody that can verify, like, yes, these are our official business records. I verify that they are our official business records. That's what an official witness is. They don't really have any personal knowledge of the case one way or the other, but they have something to say about evidence that is being admitted at the trial. And they're going to authenticate it in some way. An expert witness is somebody who's going to give an opinion on the matter. This is somebody that you have hired, that the other side has hired. They are an expert. Maybe they're a psychologist. Maybe they're an economist. Maybe they're just somebody who is an expert on the issue involved in your case. Maybe they're a medical doctor. They are somebody that's going to come in and they're going to testify. They most likely had no contact with your client prior to the initiation of the case, but they have been hired to try to explain what they believe happened in the case, looking at the facts, interviewing the witnesses. So they are an expert witness, and they are generally considered either friendly or hostile. If you've hired them, they're friendly. If they're on the other side, they're hostile. All right, a hostile witness, a true hostile witness, is one who doesn't necessarily exhibit hostility, but it's one who's unwilling to divulge information. This might even be one of your witnesses that your side has called to the witness stand. And once they get up on the witness stand, they refuse to answer questions. So at that point, you can ask the judge to declare them to be a hostile witness. And this is in trial. You can declare them to be a hostile witness, and at that point, you're allowed to treat them as though they are a witness for the other side, and you can start to ask leading questions instead of direct examination questions. Now, when you're just interviewing them and you're just during the investigative process, you can say, well, that witness is hostile. They're not telling me anything. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a mean person. It just means they're not willing to talk to you. Okay, personal interviews. These are the best. Again, this is optimum. This is what you want to do. Again, like I said before, you can see their facial expressions. You can see where their eyes are shifting to. You can see if they are fidgeting in their seat. You can see their mannerisms, and you can assess their viability as a witness in front of the jury or the judge. You can't do that on a telephone interview. Now, if you can't do the personal interview, you're going to do a telephone interview. Again, you can't see the witness, but it may be efficient and economical to do things over the phone. Maybe they live far away. As I explained before, maybe they don't have a driver's license and they can't get a ride to your office, so you're going to have to do the interview over the phone. Again, not the best, but it can work. All right, so you as the interviewer, what are some things that you should do to make sure that this interview goes smoothly? First of all, your attitude, okay? Make sure that you're courteous and kind. You're coming across as truthful. Use discretion. Make sure that the witness or the client understands that this is just between the two of you, that you're not going to broadcast this. You're not posting this on Facebook, because the credibility of you and the entire law firm is at stake when you are dealing with people. So you should behave. Don't talk about other people, other clients, because they feel like as soon as they leave, you're going to be talking about them. So again, use discretion and be professional. Have a professional attitude. Be concerned about the clients. Nobody is coming into a law office because they had the best day ever. They're coming in because they got arrested. They are being sued. Something happened to them, so they're suing somebody else. They are getting a divorce. You see what I'm saying? Nobody's coming in there because they had a fantastic day. Most of these people are going through a very difficult time in their life, and so therefore you should show concern and sensitivity. And again, always be courteous and polite. Avoid legal jargon. You're working in a law office. You guys are talking about things all of the time. You know what precedent is. You know that, you know stare decisis. You know what a writ is. You know what a petition is. You know what a brief is. You know what a complaint is, an answer. These sound like regular terms to you and me because we use them all the time and we've been using them throughout your legal education. However, these people, it's probably the first time they've ever walked into a law office. They've never been involved in a lawsuit in their lives. And all of this is very confusing because what they see on TV does not use these terms, okay? They don't understand the process. So avoid legal jargon. All it does is make them feel inadequate, and then they might not even know what questions to ask because they're so confused by what you're saying. Do not give your personal opinion, especially like in a divorce situation where the wife comes in and she's like, oh my gosh, he's a jerk. I can't stand him. And you're like, yeah, he's a jerk. You say things like, I see how you feel that way. Yeah, I completely understand why you feel that way based on what you've told me. That kind of says, okay, I'm listening to you. I acknowledge what you're saying. I'm not really interjecting my personal opinion. I'm not going right along with you. Yeah, he's a big jerk. I hate him. Like, why? You don't even know him. Like, don't inject your personal opinion and your personal judgments about people, places, or things. Because next thing you know, that this person may decide that they don't want to get a divorce. And now they're like, yeah, my lawyer was like really said nasty things about you. And you don't want that, okay? False expectations. Do not tell, especially like personal injury clients, don't tell them they just won the lottery. Don't say, oh yeah, this is a $1 million case. And then it turns out it's only a $10,000 case. They're not going to accept $10,000 because you told them it was $1 million. They're telling all their friends it was $1 million. They feel like they hit the lottery. Do not give them false expectations. If anything, give them lowered expectations. If you think into yourself that this person that just came in here is going to get probation for the crime that they are charged with, remind them frequently that this potentially carries a jail term. That probation is an option. You are going to ask for it. You cannot guarantee that they will get probation. You hope that they will get probation, but keep reminding them that potentially they could go to jail. That way, if they go to jail, it's not you, it's the system. Okay? Don't give them false expectations. Keep the client involved. The number one reason why clients file malpractice or lawsuits or say, they file ethics violations against lawyers and law firms is because they say, I was never involved. They never called me. I didn't know what was going on ever. Keep them involved as much as possible. Any decision affecting their case, they should be consulted. Ethical limitations. The legal assistant has to explain his or her status to the client. Make sure they know you are not a lawyer, that you are in fact a legal assistant or a paralegal, and why you were asking them questions and why you were working with them instead of the attorney. You cannot offer legal advice. You can't represent the client in court, and you cannot discuss fees with the client at all. Those are all unethical. That's an unauthorized practice of law if you do any of those things. So make sure that the client is aware of who you are and witnesses and everything. Now, the interview environment. You hopefully are conducting most of your interviews in the office, but you might actually have to go somewhere to interview the client. So let's talk about the office interview first. All right, so the interview environment, obviously you want it to be private. Again, this is the first impression. This is the firm that you are working in. You want it to be clean. You want it to be neat. You want it to be conservative. You don't want to have a bunch of clutter all over the place. You don't want client files strewn everywhere that they can see other clients' files. You just don't want, that's a terrible environment for somebody to be in. You want it to be private. You want to have the seating arrangement set up so that it's comfortable. People are more likely to speak freely and openly if they feel like they're in a casual environment. A lot of times lawyers will have like a couch, a little round table, somewhere where that, like if there's a head of a table, you shouldn't sit at the head of the table because that signifies authority. If you have a desk in the office, you shouldn't sit behind the desk and them on the other side, because the person sitting behind the desk, it signifies authority and they feel nervous. You need to put them at ease if they are going to tell you everything, and sometimes things that they don't like revealing because, again, they're coming to a law office for a reason. They may have secrets, and it's hard to reveal a secret whenever you don't feel comfortable with the person. So trying to take away all of those barriers as best as possible is creating the best possible environment. Now, what if you can't do it in the office and you have to go out in the field? Well, then you're going to have to be creative. Sometimes you have to go to the person's place of work. You want to find somewhere that's as close to the office environment as you can with meeting those same things. I mean, it may not be inside of a room. You know, this picture is these people sitting on a stoop, but look, the woman is sitting on the stoop next to them. She's not standing up and staring down at them. She's tried to make it as comfortable and cozy as possible in this picture. Again, you may have to go out in the field, but you want to simulate those same concepts and ideas that you would use in the office and try to make those happen in the field. Now, preparing for the interview. Don't just walk into an interview and not know anything, okay? You actually have to prepare for this. You should know a little bit about the client before they come in. You want to review the case file. You want to review any relevant data that you may have obtained prior to the client or the witness coming in. Use checklists so that you can kind of keep the interview moving along so you're not just rambling for 2 hours. Any forms that they need to sign, they need to be prepared in advance and they need to be ready for signature. And you also need to explain to them what those forms are and why they're signing them. You want to keep a notepad with you so you can take any notes. You may want to use a recording device. I don't like to do that. It inhibits people. People feel like they're not going to say as much because they're on a recording. I like to do an initial interview where there is no recording, and I may say to them at the end of it, you know what, can we go through and I'll ask you those questions again, and I'd like to record your answers if that's okay. If you feel comfortable doing that, it will help me with my notes later. Sometimes they're willing to do that, but you get all the information first, so you got all the truth out, and then later you want to put that truth on a recording. And you also know what questions to ask, and you can guide them through the process on the recording. Photocopy equipment, you're probably going to need that because if they sign anything, you want to be able to make a copy and hand it to them right away, their copy of it. If you're going out on a field interview, make sure that you have stuff that you're taking with you. Take a briefcase with you, have case files, have stuff. I mean, you can't take a photocopier with you, but a lot of cell phones these days have scanning equipment on the cell phone where you can just take a picture of a document or something and then email that to yourself. So whatever you need to bring to the field interview, bring with you. Conducting the interview. Okay, how do you go through it? Well, first of all, you want to introduce yourself, and again, make sure that if you are a legal assistant or paralegal, you explain that is your role. You might want to offer the client something to drink. You want to make some small talk. Talk about the weather. Talk about family. Talk about something funny that happened to you that morning. Oh, gosh, on the way to work, I didn't think I was going to make it here because I stopped at the post office, yada, yada, yada. Okay? Make them feel comfortable. Do a little bit of a breaking the ice. Let them know that you're a human being, and don't just start right off with the tough questions. Explain the process to them during the interview. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you some questions. I have a checklist here. I have some forms that you need to fill out. But mostly I just want to get to know you, and I want you to have an opportunity to get to know me and feel comfortable asking any questions that you may have. Framing the questions, you want to ask open-ended questions. Okay, you don't want to ask questions where you're leading them through the process. You want to get the full story from them. So you want to use things like, so how did this all happen? Why are you here today? Like, what happened? I mean, I see the police report, but you tell me what happened. And just let them tell their story. And if they pause for a moment, say, well, then what happened next? And then their story can lead you to more questions. Be flexible. The witness may communicate in a certain way, and you want to sort of mirror their communication style. They may be very short and to the point, in which case you should be short and to the point. They may ramble on and on, in which case you may use a little bit of rambling because that is their communication comfort zone. So you want to make them feel comfortable. You want to make them feel like you are like them and you communicate the way that they do. So you have to really be flexible in your communication style, which can be difficult, but over time you will develop that skill. Seeking sensitive information, asking direct questions is often the best strategy. So if you know that somebody has been molested or something, get as much information as you possibly can. And if they haven't gone there to what you need to find out about, and say, well, what I was reading in the police report is it says that you were touched inappropriately. Can you tell me about that? Okay, and it's a tough question to ask, but you need to ask the question. So sometimes asking that direct question is the best possible way. Also, I already said let the client talk, and you want to get the who, what, when, where, how, and why. You want to elicit the details. Don't forget to ask any of those questions because they're all relevant and they all elicit information that you may not have thought to ask. And if you go through that checklist of who, what, when, where, how, and why, you should get the full story. The corroboration of facts we already talked about. Try to get people's names, addresses, telephone numbers of witnesses. You want to find out exactly what document they're talking about, and you want to say to them, how can you get that document? When can you get that document to me? How can I obtain that document? What does that document say? Okay. Listen to what they say again. If they have any statements that seem to contradict each other, ask them about it. Don't forget to complete your forms. And whenever you end the interview, always give them homework. Give them something to do. Tell them when you're going to see them again. Tell them when you are going to contact them again. Tell them when you expect them to provide you with documents, or if they didn't have somebody's telephone number, when are you getting that to me? Okay? So you want to make sure that you end with some sort of project for them to do. And then you're going to walk them to the door because it is rude not to. Now, documenting the interview. During the interview, you probably took some notes and you probably explained to them that you would be taking notes. When the interview is over, you should type up a memorandum or something to the file to document that you had the interview and what was discussed. Those are called notes to the file. If you have recorded the interview, an audio recording or a video recording, you could have somebody transcribe it. And any kind of witness statements, you may have handwritten or typed witness statements that they provided to you. They may have filled out a questionnaire or something. However, that is further documentation of the interview. Now, sometimes you have, and I misspelled the word challenges there, sorry. You have special interview challenges. Not every witness is going to come in and they're just going to communicate freely with you and everything's going to go great. Sometimes there are people that can't communicate as well because of something that's inhibiting them from doing so. Somebody who is not a native isn't native to the United States, that they are a foreign-born person and they may have a heavy accent, they may have a language barrier. You have to ask them, do you understand my questions? Do you understand this process? Do you think you would benefit from having an interpreter? If that is the case, then you need to get an interpreter in whatever language that they speak. Because of the legal process, you have to make sure that they completely understand. It's like having surgery or something. They need to really understand what they're consenting to and what's happening during the process. A disabled person. They may also require an interpreter, somebody who does sign language if they are deaf. They may need special equipment to communicate with you. And in that case, you need to make sure that all of that is present and available before you do the interview. Young children, you have to have the consent of the parents. Please have that parent present. Until somebody is 18 years old, you need to have a parent in the room. If the parent must be present, make sure that you arrange the seating, especially with a young child, so the child isn't really looking at the parent, okay? They're looking at you, they're talking to you, because they may be afraid to answer a certain way because mom or dad is in the room. So you want to make sure that they're not looking directly at their parent. Now, if the child is older, you can ask the parent's permission, can I speak to your child alone? Okay. Elderly persons. Sometimes elderly people they're struggling with Alzheimer's or dementia. You want to try to evaluate what their mental and physical state is when you're talking to them and interviewing them. To give it some time. If it seems like something is off, then you need to investigate that a little further because they may not be able to credibly speak with you. Okay, well, that's all I have for this. And if you have any questions, as always, you can contact me directly or you can reach out to your instructor. And have a great day.